Hello friends. Yes, I am way behind schedule. 12:27 and I'm just doing my hair. Some of that is because I allowed myself to give myself some grace this week. And I share that because I hope you will learn to do the same. To follow when the divine is working in your life and you can say, this feels right. It feels right to spend time with this person. It feels right to give them my wholehearted attention and love. And that from the vibration of love is where we create miracles in our lives. And that is why I'm so focused on divine alignment in my life right now. I have seen God working so many miracles, and I can trace back. Steve Jobs says you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back. And that quote resonated with me so deeply way back when I was studying change and innovation. And I look at, sorry, I'm not quite good at doing my hair in my phone mirror yet, so I apologize that I'm turning. And I look at how in January of 2022, a woman who I adored and had met through a business networking meeting, she happened to live in my community. And I thought, oh my gosh, I want to know her. She worked for a unicorn company, and I didn't know that was a real thing. I thought it was like a made-up thing until one of my mentors, who was just a divinely appointed woman who I met at an economic investors visionary event for the state of Colorado, she happened to have told me, that's not something to take lightly. Pay attention. Unicorn company is a real thing. And she explained to me what it was. And so I started crushing on this woman. I really held her onto this high pedestal. And we exchanged phone numbers because we lived in the same neighborhood. And I thought to myself, how lucky I am that we live in the same place. And I was living in Colorado's top neighborhood. And it was at the time when I bought there, it was the fourth best neighborhood in the United States. And so I felt so honored. I'd worked so hard to be able to position myself and my child in that environment. And I was like, it's paying off. And what ended up happening is she reached out to me. This was in January of 2022. She reached out to me and asked if I wanted to meet up for a happy hour or brunch. And I was really trying to save my money and invest in coaching for myself to be able to do what I'm doing now, which is work online from anywhere in the world. And I thought to myself, I really want to be with you, but I'm trying to be healthy. I'm trying to save money. And so I told her, I said, would you be willing to do a hike or something healthy instead? I'm really trying to manage my money very well, and I'm trying to be a smart and savvy saver and spender is what I'm teaching my daughter, and I'm trying to do the same thing. And in addition to that, I'm trying to be healthy, and I want to give up alcohol because I've kept a food journal, and I've noticed that on the days I drink, the next day I consume so much more sodium, and that's where my weight goes up, and that I'm craving a lot of unhealthy foods. I'm craving burgers, and I don't normally crave that. Crave pizza, crave Mexican. I normally do crave that anytime and all the time. And so she responded with an enthusiastic yes. And it was so cute because she said, yes, I would love that. I'm trying to be healthier myself. And so we formed this kind of immediate bond by raising our standards for ourselves. And we went on this hike, and it was so funny because we had amazing nature trails in our community, and these amazing nature trails, I let her pick, right? I said, you pick, because I was so excited to be meeting this woman. And so I let her pick, and as she picked, hello, Adana, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. You can type in the chat if I'm not, if you want to give me your pronunciation guide. It's great to see you, sweet friend. I know that right now God is bringing people to our lives for great reason, and the book of Acts teaches that actually, that God will choose the timelines and the places in which we will be. And so it is not by accident or serendipity that you're here. It is divine coincidence. And so I'm grateful for you. I see you, sweet friend, and I'm very happy to spend some time with you. I'm sharing a little bit about being divinely aligned, which is why I'm so late getting myself ready today, because the divine is just working brilliant things in my life. So I was going kind of down history, a little history of story of how God started working really strongly in my life. And this woman who I really admired had basically asked me to go to happy hour. And I said, I'm really trying to be a smart and savvy spender, and I am trying to be healthy, and I would love, could we do something healthy instead? Maybe a hike. She loved the idea. So that's where we're at in the story. You're all caught up. And for those of you rewatching the replay, that's kind of the important part of the story, which is why I retold it, is to hold a high standard for yourself. Because when you do that, you'll start to notice your circles of influence change. Yesterday in my training in high performance leadership in my group, you can access that by going to facebook.com/groups/we are building brilliance. That's what we're doing together, building brilliance in ourselves and in our communities, or in our families, in our communities, workplaces in the world. And our circles of influence are important. Sociologists teach us, that our environment shapes our behavior. Psychologists teach us that our mind shapes our behavior. So we're working on those things all the time, or I want you working on those things all the time. So this woman, as I hold my standard, she matches it, right? We go on this walk. I asked her, this is a funny part of the story. Hi, Rena. This is a real funny part of the story. So I told her, I said, would you mind if my daughter, so we picked, let me get back, sorry. Donna, I was saying hello to you and I got myself off track. So I asked her to pick a place where she'd like to hike. I'm thinking she's gonna pick somewhere in our neighborhood because we live in the most amazing space. And what ended up happening, she picks this place that's almost an hour away. Thank you, Rena, for saying hi back to me. Hello. And so I'm thinking to myself, as a single mom, how do I make sure that I don't look unprofessional? How do I bring my child with me? Because if I have to commute almost an hour to the hike, and we're gonna hike for probably an hour and a half or 2 hours, then we're gonna wanna go have a coffee or lunch. That's gonna be another hour, hour and a half. So I'm doing the math in my head going, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to leave my child for 5 hours. And Gigi was, 11 at the time. And I had just I've always been with her. So I was feeling kind of uncomfortable about leaving her home for so long because I hadn't done that yet at that point in her life. And so I make up this giant fib. I said to her, my daughter loves hiking. Would you mind if she joins us? My daughter does not love hiking. So after that, I had to go bribe my daughter and say, okay, sweetheart, I really want to meet with this woman. She knows a lot. I want to learn alongside of her. And she invited me to go out to brunch. I want to be healthy, so I chose a hike. She picked a place that's a little far away, and I told her you would love to come with us. Hi, Carrie Lou, it's great to see you. So I told her, I told her that you love to hike, so I'm gonna need you to pretend that you love hiking today, sweetheart, and then I bribed her. Every good mom bribes their child. I used to always tell myself I would never do that. Nope, that's not true. Every good mom bribes their child. So I bribed her to have a darn good time, be an angel on this hike, and that I would let her do anything she wanted to do. Whether that was go to Target and buy a toy, whether that was have a day off of school, whether it was go on an adventure with me that she got to choose. I was like, I will do anything. Well, this woman and I go on this hike, and what was so amazing, she ended up telling me that she was on a leave of absence from work. And here's this woman, right? She works at a unicorn company. I had held her in such high regard, and that was why I was so excited to meet with her. And so she shared with me that she was leaving work on a mental health leave, and it was just so toxic she couldn't handle it anymore. And I told her, I said, I am so sorry that you're going through this, and I'm really honored that you'd share that story with me. And I said, I want to be here to support you through this journey, whatever I can do to help. I said, one thing that I know from my own journey living on this planet through a lot of hard times is that I suffered in silence a lot, and I didn't have to. And cancer taught me that people would reach out and show love, and I wasn't a burden, and that it actually brought them a lot of joy to help. And I said, so I really want to be here for you. I want to help you. And when we got home that day, she said to me, she would say, as we were saying our farewells, she said, thank you so much for today. It really meant the world to me. And I said, it meant the world to me too. And I want you to know you are not a burden. This is why we share our stories with each other, why it's powerful to be in community with one another. And actually, I'm going to screenshot our little community. I can touch base with you all later. So as I was sharing that with her, I said, can I take you to coffee in the morning? Because one thing I know when I'm suffering in silence, I don't want to do my hair. I don't want to get up in the morning. Maybe that's why God said you got to go live at the mirror. Get us all doing our hair. Like we just feel a little better, right? The only reason I'm doing my hair, I didn't do my hair yesterday, by the way. The only reason I'm doing my hair today is because I have a really important 4 o'clock meeting this evening, which 4 o'clock on a Friday, come on, I love why people do that. Anyhow, it allowed me to have a nice workout, great workflow and creative time, and it just allowed my schedule to adjust, which I was feeling guilty that I wasn't on whenever I was telling myself I was going to be on. And now look, this is how the divine works in our lives. I'm now here with you, Adana, Rena, and Carrie, because God works through people. It's like Acts says, God chooses the timelines and the places in which they'll inhabit this earth. We're here together. It's not coincidence. It's not serendipity, honey. It's God. We are meant to be in community. And so as I built this program, Divinely Aligned by God, that launches May 11th, and it's going to be a 4-week program where we do a masterclass together, we coach together, we get ourselves connected to God so that these miracles can happen in our lives and we can experience greater joy. So we're not in that mental state of stress that the woman that I now can call her friend, but at that time she was like someone I really looked up to. Well, let's go back to the story. So I told her, I said, I don't want you to suffer in silence like I have in my past. I really want to be there for you. Can I take you out to coffee in the morning? And she says, no, I'm going to church. I said, that's okay. Offer's there. You just let me know when you want to exchange your coffee coupon and I will meet you anytime, anywhere, sweet friend. And so we say our farewells. Fast forward, the rest of the day goes on. Gigi and I are snuggled up in bed that night. And Gigi says to me, Mommy, why don't we go to church? You want to know what I said? This isn't going to make me sound good. This is not what a strong Christian woman would say. This is what a Christian woman who left the church because it was such a horrible place would say. So I told my daughter the truth. I believe in speaking truth to children. I've worked with children and nurtured their development for over 2 decades. I love learning. I love being with kids, and I do not like lying to children. And so I told her, I said, honey, we don't go to church because Mommy likes things that unite people, that bring people together, that show God's love. And church isn't that kind of place. Church is very divisive, and it's done a lot of harm to society. It's withheld information so that people can't be the best versions of themselves. It's tried to control society, and there's a lot of hypocrites at church. Now I'm one of those hypocrites. You want to know why? Because living that way is actually hard. So you're trying, but then life happens and you get derailed a little times. And you might yell or scream at your kid and you're like, shoot, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. You might get frustrated on the road in traffic and you're like, dang it, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. So now I know they're not hypocrites. They're just on the same wild ride that we are, trying to figure it out. However, in that moment, she so sweetly looked at me and said, Mommy, can we go? And we were getting ready to move out of the city that we'd called home for over 20 years. Well, that I'd called home for over 20 years, obviously for her not. And we were moving, I had just won the bid on a country crowd property, $1.7 million home, to be doing that all by myself. I was terrified. And I was living at the edge of my comfort zone, and I had worked my tail off. I lived in my Honda Civic my first year of teaching. I built all of this by myself without a dime of child support, without a dime of maintenance, coming from a family that's a working class family. And I thought, I was so scared that I thought this could actually be there was something in me that said this could be a good opportunity for you. Maybe you connect to church. Church might have some good people. You might not be so alone in the world anymore. You might not have to fight so hard through the day. And we went to this church. It was truly, God has been working miracles in my life ever since then. Raise your hand if you want me to tell the story of God working in my life, because I was like, I could cut it off and wrap us up, or I could share the miracles that just started happening. Anybody? I'm like, who wants to hear about miracles? Who wants to wrap up and talk about fight and flow? Let me see. Miracles. All right, Rena, we'll go with miracles. This will inspire you. It totally rocked my world, especially as a logical, math, science-minded person who didn't really understand God and who looked at things like Noah's Ark and went, omnivores, carnivores on a boat? Right, sure. And then Gigi's barber told me, you think God can create the universe, but he can't control an animal's appetite and behavior? I was like, okay. I'll quit fighting the asking questions and just flow with God. So what ended up happening, Gigi, so first week was absolutely amazing. They played a lot of my favorite songs, And the pastor talked about sex. The pastor talked about all kinds of things that were real. And I thought, man, this place is cool. It was called Authentic Life. So it was all about being authentic. And I thought, I like this place. And they had free donuts. And I hadn't had a donut in about a zillion years. So you bet I let myself splurge on a donut. And that became the highlight of the experience. Like the next week, Gigi had a friend spending the night. And I could overhear them talking. And she said, hey, do you want to do something funny? It's really fun at church, but my mom hates church. Do you want to ask her if we can go? You just wait. My mom hates it. She will say no. And so because I'd overheard their little powwow, she comes in and she says that. And I said, oh, sure, I'd love to go. You know me, I like those free donuts. And she says, wow, really? So they get all excited. The next morning, I'm driving the girls down to church and we have a great time. They happen to announce winter camp. So of course, these two cutie patooties are begging me to let them go to winter camp. And Gigi's friends saying, can you ask my mom? Can you ask my mom? And I'm sitting there like, how on earth am I getting so hooked into this dark? I do not want to go to church. I just want a free donut, in and out, right? Like, let's get her done, check it off. I love my to-do list, check it off the list. And so we end up, I'm like, okay, here's the deal, girls. I will let you go if they need volunteers. I'm not letting you go into the wilderness with a bunch of people that I don't know. They're like, but it's church. I said, but priests molest children. Like, no, you're not going unless I'm going to be there. So I introduced myself to the youth pastor. We exchanged phone numbers. I end up on a phone call with him. And he basically tells me that only members of the church can volunteer with their children. At the time, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, you don't know who I am. Like, I have worked with children for over 20 years. I have 4 degrees in education. I've founded schools. I've advised the White House and Gates Foundation. I kind of am a little bit of a big deal when it comes to kids. But this guy doesn't know me from Adam and Eve, right? So here he is. Hi, Pam. It's great to see you. I'm telling the story of coming back to God, and we're in this space of miracles and Gigi's first request to go to winter camp. So I get on the phone with this guy, and he has this little bit of snarky tone about how, because I'm not a member of the church, I can't volunteer. And because I know my daughter wants to go so badly, I'm willing to kind of go to bat, right? Otherwise, I'd normally be like, fine, peace out. However, at this particular moment, I was like, these girls want to go, and I'm going to create a win. I love to win, and I'm a little bit competitive in my spirit, so I was like, I'm going to make this happen. So I don't know, I just grew a courage muscle, and I told him, I said, why don't you go ahead and look me up on LinkedIn? And if you feel that I meet the requirements that you hold your volunteers to, give me a call back. Literally a click, hang up the phone. Less than 2 minutes later, that man was calling me and said, oh my gosh, you are an answered prayer. And I said, thank you. I appreciate, you acknowledging and recognizing that I am qualified to work with children. What ended up happening, this bus, I kid you not, so there were 2 buses, middle school bus, high school bus, and then the youth pastor and one other pastor with him in a truck behind us. It had so many kids that wanted to go to church, which is amazing, right? Churches right now, the church here now in Florida, they baptized 70 people last weekend. There's an awakening of consciousness that's happening, and it's because of the friction moments in our lives. Like for me, cancer made me super close to God, where I'm like on fire. Never did I think my resume bullets would be like, lead people to awakened consciousness, living divinely aligned. But that's what God's calling me to do, and I'm here for it. I'm just praying. It comes to me. I put it in my journal. I go, okay, God, I'll go live. And I know that I'm here with people who God wants me to be with. So thank you, Carrie, Rena, and Pam. And my scroll has gone up. And Adana for being here with me. I know that's God working in our lives. So we're on the bus now, right? There's so many kids. They don't even know what to do with them at the church. It's bursting at the seams. The middle school bus happens, we had a crazy bus driver. I literally went up and sat at the front steps to be near him, make sure we weren't going to end up in the woods somewhere, right? Like things were just kind of starting to fall off the rails. And as an educator, I'm like, I know how to make this, how to control this situation and get us from point A to point B. So I'm sitting there, I'm conversing with him, I'm listening. This man was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and had a lot of crazy stories. So I'm trying to listen, I'm trying to keep him on course. Meanwhile, we're like raging so far ahead that I've lost sight of the other bus. I don't see the pastor anymore. So I'm texting him just to say, hey, just letting you know we're doing fine. We're on course. We just got little Mr. Leadfoot leading us here. So we get stuck in a patch of ice. Kids start freaking out. I don't know if we made a wrong turn, but at this point, I don't see the other bus or the pastor in sight. And I literally stood up in that bus and I was like, if you can hear my voice, clap once. And then a few, the kids who are really attentive to like, we're in trouble, that taught me who are the leaders, right? And I'm really good at picking out the leaders. So I'm like, okay, if you can, and then I raise my voice, you can hear my voice clap twice, right? And they do the whole teacher thing. And I said, here's the deal. If you can hear me now, say, hey, hey. So they all shout, hey, hey. That gets now the stragglers' attention, right? The kids that were like way out in left field, not paying any attention, are now like, what's going on? I said, okay, every time that I need to speak to you, I'm going to say, hey, hey. And I want you to echo, hey, hey. And then I'm going to say, hey, hey again. And you say, what do you say? Let's try it. So it's, hey, 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 what do you say? And we did that twice, and then everyone's attention was on. These parents and other church members are looking at me like, praise God, right? And I'm feeling like, this is amazing. Like I'm here for good reason. I'm here on purpose. It felt so good to have skills. As someone who's always been pulled into growth, I never really get to do a job that I'm good at for a really long period of time. I'm always in this new beginning space of discomfort. Just like now, launching this business. It's so uncomfortable to not know what I'm doing. But I'm like, hey, you didn't know what you were doing when you led the development of a learning and performance department for a high-tech company to quadruple in size and grow and scale, but you did that. Hey, you didn't know what you were doing when you led the innovation grant for the lieutenant governor supporting the development of students all over Colorado, but you did that. Hey, you didn't know what you were doing when you founded downtown Denver's first elementary school, but you did that. So I'm telling you, you can trust that you don't have to know what you're doing to figure it out along the way. And what I'm learning is God was guiding me every step of the way to do these things. And I know that that's true for you too. And that's why I built this program. I know that we need to stand strong in our uniqueness and be divinely aligned with God's purpose for our lives. So I'm on this bus. We have the most amazing weekend. God's waking me up all night. I'm really good with kids, but this was different. God was waking me up all night with things to talk to kids about, and they weren't logical and from a textbook or curriculum or from some studies that I'd done. These were like magical things. And I would follow, and I would talk to a child. I would let God flow through me. It was like this, I don't even know how to describe it in three-dimensional words, right? It was like a fifth-dimensional experience. And every single time, these kids responded. Now, what was really crazy, these were 8th grade girls. How many 8th grade girls actually listen to grown-ups, right? They're just like, boys, boys, boys. Don't get me wrong, we did stalk the boys' cabin next door all the time. We were following those boys. That will come up later. So we're there, and I get home. I've been up all night. God's just talking to me, talking to me, talking to me. I get home, I bring my daughter to school that Monday, and I decide I'm giving myself the gift of a paid time off day because I am exhausted. I lay down in my bed, I put on my eye pillow to block out all the light from the 6 windows, and I start praying to God, and I start praying out loud. I don't know why I never got the memo that you can just pray out loud to God, but it turns out you can. So I'm praying out loud to God, and every time that I'm feeling divinely aligned, I get this tingle from my right hip to my right ankle, only on my right leg. And I was like, okay, God, that was you? Well, where were you when I was abandoned and pregnant? And I was so scared, and I was struggling financially. I couldn't even afford a high chair. Gigi never even had a high chair. I bought a crib. I turned my little liquor table into a changing station and put a cute little pad on a little fluffy thing, got rid of the wine, got rid of the bottles, put 2 little bins in there, one for diapers and one for onesies. I mean, I was broke as a joke. And so I'd ask God, where were you? And then I'd ask God for guidance on my business, because I said, this has been tugging at my heart for so long. Should I just give up on it, or am I supposed to be doing something with this? And God brought me the verse, Romans 12:2. And I thought, that's so weird. I hadn't picked up a Bible. I had to go back and look, like, when was the last time you actually touched a Bible? It's been 18 years. So I had to pick up my phone, Google, what does Romans 12:2 say? It says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I was like, that is my life verse. Everything I train and teach and do is about the normal distribution curve. I'm a mathematician. And what the norm is. And then what the norm for the top 1% is, that's what I study. I've been studying leadership since 4th grade when Mrs. Davis nominated me as a leader. And ever since then, I've studied what do the best in the world do? And what's the norm there? And so now I talk a lot about the norm of our society has led us to a place where we're depressed, where we're anxious, where we're obese, where we're in these negative narratives of not enough constantly, and we're not designed to live there. And my business was initially all about the great 8 dimensions of life and creating a strategic plan for your life. That's what helped me after divorce. It's what helped me when I was founding my school. I've had this 12-page strategic plan for my life that I revise every quarter since 2009 now. And so initially that's what the business was about. And I'm thinking to myself, this is amazing. So then, now I'm fired up, right? I'm not tired anymore. I lay down, I'm like, God, bring me more of those verses. That was a good one. Like, I'm so excited. I'm like, I want to know more. And I get this next verse was that God delights in the details of our lives and directs the steps of the godly. And I'm like, the steps? I kind of want the master plan. Like, I like the whole plan. I can handle it. Turns out I wouldn't be able to, and neither would you. Here's why God directs our steps. So fast forward a little bit. I go downstairs. Now I'm so excited. I open up my laptop. My graphic designer had just designed my workbook for my business, and I love the ocean. So you want to know what was on there? A woman with footprints on the sand. And that footprints poem had been what came to me when I asked God, where were you when I was abandoned and pregnant? Where were you? And it was that footprints poem. It was then that I carried you. And Gigi's barber had told me, this is why we need to be in community with other believers. She helped me see God. She goes, was there anybody there? I said, oh yeah. I had, my school principal was a big supporter. My dearest teaching friend who I taught with my first year in Colorado was a big supporter. She's like, that was God. God was guiding those people to you. And so now all of a sudden my view of God started to get bigger. And this is what will happen as you awaken to the divine. You'll start to realize, like right now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought of God as Jesus, an earthly orientation of God. God is galactic. Like, hello, galaxies, God of wonders beyond our galaxy. I'm starting to see like, oh my gosh, that means like God is divine angels and guardians and protectors, and God has a whole team working for us. How cool is that? So now we can call on an entire team to help guide us through the day and be successful. So that's really fired me up. So going back to this particular moment, I'm now seeing, I'm at my desk, I'm seeing this workbook, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Now let's go back to that $1.7 million house. I have $50,000 in earnest money. I've realigned my entire budget to pinch every penny to make that happen. And luckily, being broke as a joke had taught me how to do that, right? I was now saving every bit of money because I knew I'm going to pour into real estate. It was real estate that got me positioned to do that. And so I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to play Beat the Receipt, where each week at the grocery store, I would try to spend a little less than I did the week before. Then that got me really good at monitoring my spending, and I started doing a zero waste process where it was like everything I buy gets consumed and has nutrient value. So I started eliminating all the sweets and treats, started losing some weight, which felt really good, dropped about 20 pounds while saving over $7,000. And so it was just amazing as I was watching how much I was saving beating the receipt, and I was watching how much my body was changing, and I was feeling energized and I was sleeping better. So now this foundation gets poured on a 7-degree day without a winter mix. And the walls look horrible. A gentleman from the barn where my daughter rides came over and said, this looks really bad. I said, I know. But my realtor said, I need a professional engineer, and I don't know if I can afford that. Like, I'm already really at the edge of what I can do here, and I'm scared. I've never played this big in my life before. And he said, it's just money. Money will come and money will go. Trust that you're doing what's right for your daughter right now. And I thank that man still, like we had a conversation this week, I thank him so often for teaching me that money's just a tool. It is not here to like govern and guide us. And so I said, okay. I talked to my realtor tells me, you need a professional engineer. And I was like, I don't have one and I can't afford one. And what ended up happening, this was so amazing. Literally the next week at church, this greeter, his name was Raul, and he would always do this. He would do this. All you gotta do is take the next step. And I was like, oh my gosh, God told me, God directs the delights in the details and directs the steps. So I was like, okay, my next step is just to figure out how to express concern to the builder. So I did, and they treated me like I was some ignorant, dumb blonde, single mom, all by myself. So I'm starting this bullying pattern with them where they're just beating me down and I'm trying to get back up, beat down, try to get back up. It's so exhausting being in that place. And all of a sudden the next week at church, Raul says hi. There's this gentleman who's speaking with him who happened to need an accountant. Raul says, I bet Dr. J has one. She's building this house and she's, with interest rates rising, she's had to do a lot of work with her finances to make this happen. So I said, I'd be happy to introduce you to my CPA. And I get his email. That night, I facilitate the introduction. The email comes through. Thank you for the introduction, Jay. Nice to meet you. His signature says PE. I had to Google, what is a PE? Because to me, that's physical education teacher. So I was like, what is a PE? You want to know what it is, my friends? Professional engineer. It's the highest level of status an engineer can have. So I write back, hi Nick, Dr. Cupforth, it's great to see you. We're talking about being divinely aligned and how God works so many amazing miracles in our lives, and how I was in this place where I was under contract for a really expensive home and the foundation was destroyed and I was being bullied by the builder, and this was how God worked. So literally, God brings this man into my life who needs help with an accountant. I do the email introduction. I see PE teacher, or PE, I think PE teacher, but it's professional engineer, highest status you can have. Him to start trying to reconnect. I asked him, would you be willing to come out to this site with me and take a look at this property? He says, yes, I'll see you there in 5 minutes. I said, whoa, I live in the city. I'm actually just preparing to move outside of downtown Denver. Could you meet me there? It'll take me 45 minutes to get there. So how about we meet at the top of the hour? It was about 10 after. And so he says, yes. We get there, he's got his cute little engineer notebook and he's taking notes, and I felt like so empowered because I was like, you're not bullying me anymore. I got God on my team. And so he ends up, at the end, he says, I'll send you an email with all of my concerns and we'll get answers and I'll help you through this. And I thought, that's just a miracle, right? Like, what did I do to deserve this? Turns out nothing. You don't have to do anything to deserve God's love. So I asked him, I said, what made you drop everything? Like, it was so nice of you. However, you didn't have to drop every single thing you're doing to come and help me today in this very moment. He said, when you approached at church that day, the Holy Spirit washed over me and said, help this woman. So I knew this was God. And I thought to myself, I don't know how God guides my life or if he's guiding my life. And I wanted to know more. And then, get this, the very next week at church, I see the gentleman. Remember those girls I told you from winter camp and how they had crushes on these boys? Well, he was the cabin leader of the boys that we were secretly stalking all of winter camp. So I see him in the little cafe at church, and I walked up and I said, hi, it's great to see you. He says, it's great to see you too. He's like, I see you everywhere, but I've never seen you before winter camp. And I said, well, winter camp was day 3, 4, and 5 of church for me. And he was so surprised that I took on this gigantic group of 8th grade girls being new to the church. And I told him how excited we were to be moving to that area. And however, how difficult it had been to have these builders destroy the foundation. And every time I turn around, I'm hearing the song, Christ is my firm foundation. And they're citing scripture about foundations. And I'm like, God, I don't know if you're trying to tell me to stay here, it's going to be okay. Or if you're telling me, run, the foundation's faulty. And I had every bit of evidence that said the foundation was faulty. The walls were displaced 1 3/4 inches, like bowed out. They pulled the concrete forms too soon, backfilled too soon, and there was honeycombing on every structural beam pocket. I felt like I got a PhD in concrete in January of 2022. It was so crazy. So get this guy, he says, I would love to help you. Why don't you go into service? I'll go over to the property and take some notes. Turns out he had a bachelor's in construction management, had worked in the field of construction, building luxury homes for over 20 years, and the last boutique firm that he had worked for had gotten bought by the builder who was building my home. He literally said, I know their shortcuts and I will help you take them down. Now I'm like, even my realtor's jaw's dropping at this point, right? I'm like, all right, come and bully me. I've got me, my realtor, the guy from the barn, the professional engineer, and a construction manager. I was like, and the almighty God, bring it on. I end up getting my earnest money back. It was a really sad season because I was so hooked on that house, but I also knew there's more for me. And the guy that was the construction manager kept saying, why would you spend this much on this luxury house? You could get acreage, you could put a barn in the yard for your daughter. And I thought, no way could I do that. I grew up riding waves, not horses. I can't have a horse in the yard. I don't know how to do that. I don't know the first thing about that. And all I knew is what a guy at work told me, the CEO of a company that we had acquired. He said, horses eat money and shit work. So that's really like all I knew. Plus being a great horse mom and cheering Gigi on, I know a couple things like pretend you're holding ice cream cups, hold your shoulders in alignment with your hips, in alignment with your ankles, heels down, toes up. That's about all I got. Rise and fall with the shoulder on the wall. That's the extent of all my horse knowledge, right? If God had given me a child that wanted to play soccer or baseball and go off to college and crush it, I could guide them there. But God didn't give me that child. And some say your children choose you. And I'm like, well, why'd you choose me? I don't know anything. But I now see it. I see that she chose me because I'm tenacious. I'll position people for her. And following God is what led us to the horse capital of the world. So now my mind is being opened because this individual is helping me awaken to seeing bigger. That's why we have to be in community with people who have a high vibration, who lift us up. So I'm starting to see bigger and imagine possibilities. Then that Easter, we get a call from Gigi's trainer saying that the horse that she loves is going to be picked up and brought back to its original stable if they don't sell it or lease it. And I'm thinking to myself, Gigi's going to fall apart and die crying. So I'm like, okay, I could either drive her down there tonight. It's like 7 p.m. this text is coming in. Or I could let her ditch school tomorrow and we could go down there and say farewell first thing in the morning and have kind of a cry day, say farewell, and then move on. I decided to call my mom. My mom's from England, so she's very kind of by the book, high values, kindest heart you'll ever meet, so I knew she would have good guidance. However, you want to know what I did? I snuck upstairs to my bedroom and I went into my closet, into the back corner, sat down, cozied up with my favorite blanket, and called my mom because I knew Gigi cannot hear this story. She is going to cry and melt down. So as I'm talking to my mom about it, my dad comes on and says, it'll be fine, she'll find another horse to love. My mom says, well, how ready do you feel to own a horse? We've been saving to get her one. And that's not the most expensive part, right? The most expensive part is keeping the horse. So she wanted to make sure that financially I was ready. And so I said, well, I have budget for that. You know, I was working in a tech firm where I got bonuses bigger than my whole year's educator's salary. So I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I can do that. And I end up in a negotiation with this person. I buy the horse for a third of the price. Now I'm like, oh goodness, I own a horse. Talk about like just following God's guidance, right? There'll be a state of flow, like Mikhail Chick set me high. Thank you, Dr. Cutforth and Dr. Ermacher and Dr. King for teaching me about Mikhail Chick set me high. And the 8 states of flow, I taught about that a week ago Thursday in High Performance Leadership if you want to see that training. Or reach out and I'll send you a direct link. I'd happy to make it easy for you. So I'm being in this state of flow and I'm focused on living in the state of flow and divine alignment. And then we find this house. And oh my gosh, it was the best community of love and support that I have ever been in my life. I felt like I was time transported back to like the 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s. I don't know, I'm a math science person, so I don't know much about history, but in a time when like people, they would make their jams, they milked their goats, they baked things. I remember we had an old-fashioned picnic with a whole old-fashioned car show, and I remember this one woman asking me what kind of pie I was going to bring, and I said, I don't know, what kind of pie do you think people would like? She goes, well, what's your favorite to bake? I said, I've never baked a pie in my life. City girl. I do know Denver's best pie shop. I'd be happy to go pick up a pie. And so I just was immersed in this very, and turns out very biblical way of living, where men are caretakers for their families and women are nurturing and gentle and feminine. And I had become, as a single mom on a solo income, fighting through the days, I had become very lean into. And that masculine energy of decisiveness, determination, discipline, aggressiveness, that had become where my strengths were. And now I was learning to also awaken to my feminine energies. And there's some research that came out in, oh, I'm going to forget this. And now Dr. Cutforth's on here. I'm like, I better get it right. There was a research study that was done, I forget the year, but it was 64,000 survey participants across 18 nations in Fortune 500 boardrooms. And they showed that femininity was the operating system. And so I thought 21st century prosperity, femininity, I paid attention to those traits, right? And the masculine traits. So they were saying there's a shift happening away from being disciplined, determined, decisive, and aggressive towards collaborative, communicative, intuitive. And I thought, I see that. I saw it happening in businesses. I saw it happening with those businesses that were thriving and succeeding. They had a dance of both of those energies. It's not one or the other. It's yes and, as design thinkers would say. So now here I am in the most beautiful community ever. I end up falling off of Gigi's horse, getting a concussion, having to really start to focus on maintaining my mind, resting, all these biobehavioral choices for peace and stress less, and things that were unfamiliar to me and quite honestly very annoying. It was so hard to lay in darkness and let my mind heal. But the effects of the concussion were so strong that I had to do it. Like my room would spin. It was always down and around and forward every time. So I knew something was deeply wrong with my brain that I had to heal. And because of that, I paid attention. So I started learning how to find peace in my day. Milton, it's great to see you, my man. And so I learned how to find peace in my day thanks to the concussion. Well, you want to know what happened? As I fell off that horse, I met my insurance deductible. So that year, earlier, I'd had a mammogram that came back abnormal. I kind of freaked out at first, but my mom said, oh, don't worry about it, honey. She said, it's probably just fibrocystic tissue. It happened to me, it happened to grandma. Big fatty boobs just run in our family. Well, that test was gonna be $897 out of pocket after insurance. So I thought, I'm not paying nearly $1,000 to have someone tell me big fatty boobs run in our family. That's a good vacation for a girl who knows how to spend $1, and I wasn't gonna go get that test. Well, thanks to falling off of Barbie, and this is how your greatest challenges are actually where your opportunities lie. If you gotta be open-minded. We've talked about, this week in my lives, I've talked about the 16 habits of mind that are very important to successful people. One of them is maintain an open mind. Another one is thinking critically and creatively. We've got to be open to possibilities, right? And that means we've got to rewire some of our default mode network in the mind. And so the Awakening program is designed to help you do that. And we'll be launching May 11th. So if you feel called, there's no coincidence. You're just meant to be there. So let's connect. So what ended up happening, I met my deductible and I decided to go in for that exam. And it's thanks to Barbie that I'm here today, because I had a grade 3 tumor, which is the most aggressive grade you can have. And the growth factor, which is a Ki-67 protein that they measure, they use a scale from 0 to 20 plus. Mine was a 51. I didn't even know that thing was in my body. I had no lumps. It was literally, my tumor was half the size of my pinky nail. I would have never known. I would have been dead right now had it not been for that horse. Well, then fast forward, Gigi wants to jump in the Olympics. I don't know how to make that happen, right? And it turns out it's actually hard to get people to come out to your property. It was a lot of work. I mean, we raised ducks, we raised chickens. I wouldn't change it for the world. We have so many memories. I grew more in the year and a half in the country than I did the decade prior. So it was like, I was always taught by my mom, invest in your education. That was like a big investment. $250,000 investment in my education is how much it cost us to live there for that year and a half. And I decided, thanks to a divine teacher who came into my life and said, is this stress worth it? I said, I'm not stressed. I manage stress really well. I've done turnaround schools, I've advised the White House, I've done all these things. I live in a constant state of stress, and I'm doing I manage it well. And meanwhile, my functional medical team in Chicago that I'd hired to complement my actual Western medical team had just done a cortisol test. And my doctor actually asked if I had a life-threatening job, because my stress levels were 8 times what they should be. Yet I wake in the high end of normal and I go to bed at the mid end of normal. So it was just during the workday. And I laughed because I said, well, actually, I was just laid off. So I don't even have a job that's stressful. But it was really stressful to try to figure out, how do you maintain a lifestyle of $13,000 a month in operating expenses and horse shows and all these different things. And so I was incredibly stressed, but I was lying to myself. I was narrating a story that I'm strong and I'm okay and I can do this independently. And that's not how we're wired to live. So I really had to face the music and look at the data and say, your body's telling you a different story. You are not handling stress well. And I made the really difficult decision to sell that dream house. And it was thanks to that person, right? Again, God works through people. Pay attention, because these people, just like I'm here with you, I hope that God's working through you as you hear this story. I've told this story before. I'm not telling it for me. I'm telling it because God's pulling my heart forward and saying, share this, share this, share this. This was what I was going to share. And this is like a teeny piece. We've already covered this piece, and now we're like into something that's more divine. So I want you paying attention to what's really relevant for you. I would love for you to message me with what's really relevant for you that you're hearing. I want to know you. I'm in this divine space where I'm getting to know and be with people who really need it. And I just had an Akashic record read, which I didn't know what those were 6 weeks ago when that came to my mind. The Akashic records are like a Google search of all the souls. And I've learned that my soul came here during this time to teach. And that blows my mind, because the entire life I've been teaching. And that this is my last carnation. I've been here hundreds of times before, and this is my final time, and I'm here to teach. And that I'm here to help assist and facilitate the awakening of consciousness and connection to the divine and heal. And I thought, that is not aligned with my resume, but I can look back and connect the dots and know that I'm divinely doing what I'm intended to be doing right now. And I also know the way God is working miracles. So we decided to sell the house. It was a very difficult decision. I felt like I was packing boxes that I was like, I just unpacked this. I just bought all these furnishings, setting up a brand new 5,800 square foot home. Like, these rooms were so massive, I couldn't just move my furniture in. I had just had all this furniture custom made at Ethan Allen, and here I am selling it and downsizing. And I didn't feel sad about it. I actually felt peace. And that's how you know you're aligned with the divine, is you feel peace. And so it was hard. It's not easy being aligned with the divine. It's just worth it, right? So it was hard. I trusted that everyone buying my things, they were these divine blessings. People were praying prayers over me, and that I'm healed forever from cancer, and all of these beautiful things were happening. Yet our home sold. It was supposed to take 3 to 4 months. So I was backwards mapping my finances of when money would run out, because after the layoff, I've been pursuing the building of this business and kind of curious about my career path and what's going to happen next. And I'm super nervous about it because I don't have health insurance now. Well, hello, I'm a cancer patient, right? And so there's a lot of things that make me very nervous and make me want to go back into a traditional system of employment so that I can have healthcare and do those things. Yet God continues to call me to do this work, and continues to bring people divinely into my path who reach out and say, hey, you want to partner on this? Or hey, you want to do this? And I'm like, it's all flowing. So when I'm in that state of flow with the divine, I'm trusting that I'm right where I need to be, and that I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing. And our home sold in 3 weeks. The research on our property type, and with that acreage and barn, was supposed to be 4 months. So here we are going, oh my gosh, the cabin that we were going to be moving into was being built up in a town called Conifer. It's a little mountain town. Gigi had a friend who lived in Bailey, just 12 minutes away, that had a 35-acre homestead. So we were going to move the horse up there, simplify life. And this cabin just kept not being done, not being done, not being done. And I thought, okay, that door's shut. We find a trainer. I start looking at this trainer. We really liked her. She was in West Arvada. So we start looking at homes there. Door shut, door shut, door shut. We finally find this property on a 100-acre horse rescue ranch, but it didn't have a garage. And I'm not really the biggest fan of snow and cold. I love Florida. I love being so warm and peaceful, and my body flows. I don't like this. And I've only shoveled snow 3 times in my entire life. I cannot stand snow. So I was thinking to myself, it's gonna be real rough getting your car to this property through tons of acres to your home, and then having to shovel and dig yourself out. Like, you're gonna be miserable. And in Colorado, it snows from October to April. So that's 7 months of the year, right? It's not like, oh, it's just November, December, January, or something short, right? I'm like picturing, I'm a math-minded person, so I'm calculating the percentage, right? I'm like 7/12 of the year, you're gonna be miserable. It's gonna be really tough. Oh, Rena, you were in Boulder. I love that. Boulder is an amazing, beautiful place. So I'm basically feeling like that's a door that's creaked open, but it's not dreamy. Well, I decide, you know what, if I'm going to be homeless, I'm going to be homeless at a beach. So I thought, instead of searching and fighting, I wanted to be in flow. Instead of fighting, I'm going to be in a flow state, and I am going to go on a lifestyle education adventure, because I'm now homeschooling my daughter because she was being called an effing N-word and told to kill herself in the public school system. And I said, nope, not going to happen. So I said, we're going to make January the recalibrate, reconnect after cancer, let go, honor the trauma of what we've been through, because I've learned that trauma makes its home in the body and forms disease if we don't deal with it. I've also had people who work in hospice that are dear friends that say, you can't pass on to your next life unless if you have agitations. So I was like, I don't want to be in an agitation and not able to move on or have a horrible death. So I was thinking to myself, I'm going to honor and acknowledge this trauma, make sure my body and aura is cleansed from that, and then move forward. And also acknowledge my daughter was right there alongside me with this fight. And everything was all about me during that time. And so I wanted this to be a time that was all about her. So I called it our Lifestyle Education Adventure. We booked places up in the Tampa beaches. We did St. Pete Beach, Madeira Beach, Reddington Shores, Indian Shores, Bel Air Beach, and Clearwater. Then we came up the coast and we did river life. That was scary, my friends. I saw signs that were like venomous snakes and gators, and we went sup paddling in that water. I was petrified. I'm like paddling with like so much tension. I was like, river life's not my jam. Not that kind of river anyway. So we did Homosassa, Crystal River, and Denellen, and spent some time there. Then we came to Ocala. And that was kind of the pinnacle, because our neighbors back home in Colorado had suggested this place to us. A dear friend of mine from DU, where I did my doctorate, had reached out. We were talking about Gigi's riding career, and she rides. And so I'd asked her, how do I advance her? Where do you suggest we go? So we went to Wellington last September. Wellington is incredibly pretentious, very expensive, wasn't going to save me money to give me time and financial resources and a lot of runway to build my business. And so I thought, that's not really getting me into a better position. So back home we went, that was last September, and Gigi didn't want to sell Barbie anyway. So now we're thinking Colorado has to be home because she doesn't want to sell her pony. She's outgrowing her pony. So now in Wellington, a stall for a horse is $3,300 a month. So I'm like, we can't keep Barbie, who you're outgrowing, and get a new horse that's $80,000 to $100,000, right? The math isn't adding up, and I'm a math person. So we end up coming to Ocala because our neighbors had said, you'll love Ocala better than Wellington. It's not pretentious, it's very low key, it's very down to earth. It's a lot like our community here in Bayou Hills, which was in Parker, Colorado. And I said, okay, so we come, now we've had the beach trip, the river trip, and it's about time for game on. We were also staying, our Airbnb was a barn dominium. I want to have one of those someday. It's like a barn with a condominium on top of it. So it's called a barn dominium. And on top, it's like you have your kitchen, you've got your bedrooms. It's like a little house, kind of like a loft style home. Like when I lived in the city downtown in Denver, it was like a loft, but it's on top of a barn. So we were driving with so much excitement, right? Because we're coming from the Gulf Coast inland a little bit to Central Florida, where there are no hurricanes, by the way. That was very important to me as I was evaluating places to live. And when we got here, now mind you, I'm homeless in my head, right? So every night I'm scouring Zillow. And I'm also thinking, well, you know what? When God edits your life and takes away your health and makes you focus on the biobehavioral choices that bring you peace, you now have like this peaceful productivity and ease and flow through your days. God edited out my job. I didn't have that to stress me out anymore. God edited out brick and mortar school for Gigi. And now here we were, like able to have a blank canvas. So every night I'm scouring Zillow. I'm preferring places with coastlines because I love the ocean. I love sup boarding. I love kayaking. I love anything with the water. I'm starting to realize I scaled the mountaintops growing my career to only discover I was meant to set sail. How funny is that? It took me 46 years to realize that. I hope I can help you get there sooner if you are alongside me. So I end up, as we're rolling into Ocala, I had reached out to a realtor to say, let's look at a rental. I found one that I liked and I thought, what the heck? Just rent a furnished place for a year. You've sold almost everything. You've got a tiny little storage facility holding your things at this point. Just go. What do you got to lose? Like absolutely nothing, right? And I'd met this woman at a presentation who she was keynoting, and it was my first presentation post-COVID. And I love to present. I'm pretty good at it, and had before that been traveling in 13 countries, training leaders across the globe. So I thought, I got this. Well, when I saw her up there, she used to train Serena Williams and Andre Agassi and all these professional tennis players. She's up there in the cutest white pantsuit with tennis ball colored stilettos and her tennis racket wafting balls that have cuts with fortune messages in them out to the audience. She's just going and going. And I'm thinking to myself, uh-oh, I'm not as good a presenter as I thought. I am not ready for this. And then she stands at the end of her speech and gives us like the place to go to get her slides. And she says, I can't wait to see Dr. J's presentation this afternoon on high performance. And I'm like, well, her and I end up connecting afterwards and falling in love, crushing on each other and enjoying the like networking and the collaboration and the fire that shared souls have. And she told me that she has a home in Scotland, New Zealand, and Denver. It blew my mind. And ever since then I thought, you know what? I don't feel like I was called to live in just one place. I want to live in lots of places. So in my head, I'm thinking, this is the opportunity to get started. Just get a 1-year rental. My CPA, I'd asked him, should I buy or should I rent? He goes, just Airbnb it for now. You don't have to have, it costs a lot to move. It costs a lot to get into real estate, as you know. So give yourself simplicity. Airbnb it for now. So I contact this realtor through Zillow. The most amazing man in the world shows up, takes us out over all of Ocala, 9 hours. We have this day of adventure and laughter and fun. We go check into our barn-dominium. It is amazing on this beautiful, I don't even remember, 10 acres maybe. These horses were majestic. They look like Olympians, like all of a sudden our lives are being upgraded. Gigi's getting that taste of excellence. I love, Ron Berger writes a book called An Ethic of Excellence book. Once a student has a taste of excellence, nothing else is the same. The same is true for us, my friends. When we give ourselves that taste of excellence, it keeps us in pursuit of excellence. And so we pull into this barn. The next day he messages and says, hey, I found another place. So we meet him. Next thing you know, we're meeting a woman from Colorado who relocated here, the owner of the barn-dominium who runs a middle school group. The person at I learned from this realtor that Ocala is the 6th fastest growing city in America. So all of a sudden now my real estate business hat is on, and I said, okay, well, if that's the case, then I want to look at ownership because I'd like to get in on some of that equity and earn that. Which, another miracle that God made happen was being able to qualify for a home loan when I was in the aftermath of cancer and a layoff and not on a traditional W-2, right? So there were all these miracles that God, my realtor was even fired up. He goes, this is just amazing to me. Miracle, miracle, miracle. I was like, I know, I'm living in a state of divine miracles, and it just continues. Even I had a gentleman that I used to date who I loved very much reach out and was so shocked that I was here, shocked that I'd moved on. Did our relationship have a chance? And it created this whole, a little bit of craziness in my head, to be honest. And then the way that the divine is working, where he met someone, I met someone who's really nice. The lessons we learned from each other are divinely serving us in this moment. And I'm becoming a better mom. They jokingly call Ocala slow Cala. It's very difficult for me. I'm a very fast-paced, I'm 110 miles an hour kind of gal. And I've learned that God is a 3-mile-per-hour God. There's a book on it. And I haven't read the book. There was a pastor who referenced the book, and I actually take notes in church. And so I'd taken notes to myself, and that was one of the things that we were going to talk about today, is that when we're in fight mode, we're managing the minutes, we're measuring our worth with money, we're in a battle board, conquering it and crushing it, striving for that first place trophy. Turns out no one's giving gold stars anymore. We're in this separate self mode where it's me versus the world. And it's get her done, 110 miles per hour, and we start naming and narrating our enoughness all day long. And that when we're in that state, we can succeed. That was my playbook for success. And I struggle now because I'm going, I'm in this tug of war of like, I want to be that because it worked. But I also know that this divine alignment is working, and all of it has deep meaning. And that's why I built the Awakening program, because I want to share the things that I've learned with you in the masterclass. I want to be coaching you so that you're in a community, in a group coaching setting. I'm watching magic happen in my High Performance Leadership Academy, the way we reach out to each other when God's on our minds and hearts and we're lifting each other up, soaring in community. I want to share with you the meal plan to help you have that vibrant energy, deep sleep that allows you to focus, and most importantly, decalcify your pineal gland, because that is how you hear the voice of God, and your divine awakening and connection to your third eye is through the pineal gland, which is kind of behind your ear, inside your inner ear, in your brain. I love neuroscience. I'm a total neuro nerd. So anytime you get me fired up about the brain and how I can know God through the brain, I'm like, heck yeah. So I built out a meal plan that not only helps you, it was a lot of the meals that I learned during cancer, because cancer cannot survive an alkaline environment. And so I want your environment in your body to be very, very healthy and strong. Not only so that your immune system is strengthened and you can fight disease with ease, but that you can also awaken and hear the voice of God. Because as I started focusing on my meal plans, I became a morning person for the first time, which was exciting. I was sleeping better. My focus improved. I was getting a full day's worth of work done by 11 a.m. And I was like, this is amazing. I can go for a nice peaceful walk in nature for a couple hours with the horse. It's been fabulous. I used to have like, there's never enough time. How are you? Busy. How are you? Tired. Turns out that's not the response we were designed by God for. Now people are like, how are you? I'm like, peaceful, calm. It's kind of weird. Like I'm still not quite used to it, to be honest. I'm like, this feels weird. I feel like I'm not enough. I should be doing more. And then here's how flow works. This was actually my lesson. We're finally to it. Flow is congruence. High performance research shows that the world's highest performers are congruent with their they have clarity about who they are. And in my high performance trainings and coaching programs, there's a worksheet there, your clarity worksheet. You're congruent with it. There's alignment. You're divinely aligned with God, and you can hear and discern the voice of God. Remember, I'm a leadership person, so I'm finally seeing it's not just one God, right? That was hard for me to understand. How could one thing be in charge of all these things? There's a lot of divinity out there. It is divine. Angels, guardians, protectors, gods, all the things. I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder I used to love Greek mythology. There is God, and then God's team of leaders helping all of us. The other thing that I've loved through cancer is sound healing. Sound healing can take care of your trauma. It can help all of your cells realign. Disease cannot survive certain vibrations. So there's a Rife machine that I came across that can, it's very expensive, so I don't have one, but it has frequencies, and those frequencies can cure disease. So if you have the symptoms of the flu, you tune into a certain frequency. If you have strep throat, if you have cancer, there's all these frequencies. Well, guess what, my friends? I'm here to save you some money. Remember me, the smart and savvy spender and saver? If you go to YouTube, well, first go to Google, search frequencies for, all of our organs have a frequency, all of our chakras have a frequency. Love is the highest vibrational frequency from which all things create and manifest, so you could start there. But frequency 4, then you pop over to YouTube and search sound healing for 432 HC, and you find the things that you like the most. This is my favorite to-do list item. You want to know why? I lay in bed with my eye pillow, peacefully bathing in sound, and you will feel your vibration. I can feel it in my fingertips. One of the ways I learned how to do that was through Qigong. It was part of my recurrence prevention planning process with cancer and my functional team in Chicago. And Qi, the energy, you can feel it. And so now I can feel God's energy. I can literally, you're welcome, Rena. I would love for you to message me. I want to hear what resonates with you, because I have a lot of sound baths if you want to talk. And I've built that into the program as well. So in flow is also high vibration. I want you paying attention to the people, the places, the things that are in your life that are low vibration. When I hear people talking politics, I'm like, low vibration. I gotta go over here in my happy high vibe state. I now call it my happy high vibe love tribe. those who are in the highest vibration of love and staying in that frequency and working to be there, we'll get it's like Apple Maps. Love vibration is our destination. Do we have to do some rerouting? Absolutely. But there are things you just need to draw a line in the sand and say that low vibration stays away now, because you can't be in flow when you're in a low vibrational state. So I also put community. I love the word community with the unity capitalized. We are one humankind. Let's not forget that. And it's a community of love, support, and possibility, that I'm in flow when I'm connected with others. It is, I am like, I used to struggle in silence and solo land, and now I'm not doing that anymore. I am like, I'm going to be human. I'm going to find the psychologically safe places where I can be my authentic self, and that's why I'm creating this community. My Worthy Book Club that meets on Sundays, oh my gosh, I love the people. They say this is my safe place. And it means a lot to me, because as a facilitator of learning, psychologically safe places are very important. As a business leader focused on culture and organizational development, psychological safety is important. And 3 miles per hour, and then trust, and you're not going to like this next word, but the best word that I can find for flow is perfection. Everything is perfect. And it's not the control and live in a constant state of fear of not being enough kind of perfection. This is divine perfection. Trusting that, like this gentleman that I just met, we weren't able to meet for a long time, and we messaged back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the day that we met, it was perfect. It was a little frustrating along the way, like wanting to see each other and not being able to coordinate our schedules, yet it turned out perfect. That's what I mean. So there's this perfection that you start to see where it's like, that's not coincidence, that's perfection. It's not coincidence that you're here, it's perfection. We're meant to be together today. And then I wrote down fill and spill, where in fight mode, you're filling up your cup, you're spilling it all over, filling it up again, spilling it all over, and it's starting to get exhausting, right? Like, that was fine in our 20s and 30s. But now, it's like, how much longer do I have to keep filling and spilling and filling and spilling? Is this all there is? Versus being in a balanced state of flow. And here's what's amazing, and why I'm fine being online with you for so long. So on my to-do list, I just got myself a really pretty notebook, so that because this business is so divine, it's like my mushroom notebook. And now I write down all of the important things. If it's not important enough, it doesn't go on here. I just say N-O. And I trust. Notice just the beginning of the words, not yet. So honey, that doesn't mean it's not going to get done, but it's not going to get done by me. So you go find someone else to do that. And in this list, this is the most important priorities, right? And this week, because I gave myself a day off, remember that gentleman I told you about? We decided to be in divine alignment and flow and to release for a day. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. There's a lot of divine connection about how we operate. I have my whole biobehavioral Excel spreadsheet because I'm terrified of cancer coming back. I choose not to be terrified anymore. I choose that the divine is aligned with me. I am doing all of the right biobehavioral things so that cancer cannot have a home in this body again. I now know that there is a biology of belief, and I've aligned my beliefs with the fact that cancer does not have a home here. I know that they've cured tumors in rodents with thought, my friends. Check out the book Mind to Matter by Dawson Church. It's the astonishing science of how our mind creates our reality. Fascinating, fascinating stuff. So I want you focused on your thoughts, your beliefs. There's a ladder of inference tool that I created in partnership with MIT, my very first years of teaching. And I'm going to be teaching that in my program. We're looking at underneath every action is a thought. You want to know where your thoughts come from? They come from your beliefs. So we've got to dig a little deeper, climbing down the ladder from action to thoughts. A lot of us know that, right? We know our thoughts lead to actions, and it's why we try to control our thoughts. I'm here to tell you, you don't have to work so hard. When you're in divine flow, your thoughts see perfection everywhere. And it's because of the deep-rooted belief that you're not alone, that you are loved, and that there is a God of wonders beyond our galaxies who is far greater. And I think the reason I turned away from church is I knew that there were miscommunications and things being mistaught. And now that I've had my Akashic records read and learned that I've lived here many times before, and that I once lived with Jesus, now I know why I know what I know. I know I'm not crazy. I know that that's one physical form of God that came here to show us what's possible. To say, hey, while you're here in human form, this is how you could be and should be. That's all it is. It's just a guide. I spent 20 years looking for the guides on the best leadership, the best high performance, how the best in the world live. It's all in one book called the Bible. And you want to know the other scary thing? They've deleted books from the Bible. So there's a lot of power that is being withheld from us in information. A friend of mine actually shared her Catholic Bible with me. And in the book of Daniel, there's 15 chapters. In my Christian Bible, there's only 12. So quit staying in fight mode with God and stop trying to analyze and logic and reason your way through something. Your frontal lobe is such a small fragment of who you are. I spent my whole life thinking I was just trying to get so smart. It turns out there's wisdom within you. There's wisdom in these trees. I'm surrounded by these oak trees. What's interesting is they're the same kind of tree I used to draw in 3rd grade in my notebook. And they're everywhere. And I didn't even plan on being here. But you want to know where my divinely aligned program came from? The trees. Literally one morning, the whole program flew out of me. So if that program is of interest to you, we're kicking off May 11th. And May 11th is a very special day because 1111 has been numbers, comes up every time. 1111, 111. I see that time and everywhere. And so I chose the 11th with great intention. But that's a Saturday and a day that we're designed to have fun. So we're just going to kick off in community that day. You're going to get your shopping list because yes, we're going to get to go shopping. You're going to get your environment edit checklist so that you can edit your environment. We know thanks to B.F. Skinner, operant conditioning, our environment shapes our behaviors, and we need our behaviors to be aligned with high performance and leading the best of our lives. One of the things I wrote about in my dissertation was the empowered leadership model, that each and every day we lead the most difficult person on the planet, ourselves. I've led myself, I've led teams, I've led leaders, and I can honestly say, wholeheartedly, the biggest pain in the butt person I've ever had to lead, standing right here in front of you, I'm the most difficult person I've ever had to lead. And so in my model, I put SOL. All of us lead ourselves, some of us lead others, and some of us lead leaders. Don't get confused that just because you don't lead others does not mean you're not a leader. All of us are leaders. We all lead ourselves, the most difficult person every day. And I want you leading yourself with great intention and great purpose and great meaning. And the best guide I know is God. And I also know we didn't get everything right. Humans we have to just surrender. You will never get to know everything about God in human form during this time horizon while you're on this earth. We just don't get to. But that doesn't mean we can't know God, that we can't experience love, that we can't allow for one miracle after another miracle after another miracle to come to our lives. So remember this to-do list? I was feeling so guilty. I worked late last night going, I'm going to get myself caught up. I'm going to get myself caught up because I still have that fight mode built into me that I'm trying so hard to undo. It's called CDO. OCD alphabetized, because I alphabetize, I classify and sort, I color code. Thank you, Susan Ohanian, for telling me that. She says schools are our classifying and sorting systems in her book, What Happened to Recess and Why Our Children Are Struggling in Kindergarten. We weren't meant to struggle. It's because we weren't meant to be classified and sorted. We weren't meant to fight through the day. That's why Romans 12:2 tells us, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So we've got to start with thought. So get this. I was feeling behind. I put little eyeballs on the things that must get done today. You'll notice they still don't have checks by them. But I'm actually okay with that because I know these things are going to happen quickly for me. You want to know how I know? This morning I was on my Peloton ride. Something came up. It was exactly like what I'm needing to create. And this thing has been on my need to create list. It's a website, right? I wrote the divine version of it, and now I've got to figure out how to put it in a template online. And I'm like, ugh, my web designer is like, well, what do you want in this box, in this box? And I'm like, I'm in divine flow. I don't do like that anymore. I don't know how to do that. Guess what? It just came in front of me. Here's an example. It was beautiful. It's a lot like mine, but totally different in content. So I was like, there's the template. There's the connection. I don't have to sit and spend 18 hours on that task. It'll come to me. I'll get it done probably in 20 to 30 minutes because I'm in divine alignment. It's amazing. Just like the Awakening program that I'm launching May 11th. I've been working on this business since, let's see, it was 7 years. And then last year was the first year, thanks to the layoff, where I got to focus on it. So I'm in year 8. That came to me in an hour and a half sitting in my bed, looking at the oak trees. I was like, so frustrating. All these things that I made really difficult don't have to be difficult. So I would love to know, what are you working on? So message me. Go ahead and open up Messenger right here, right now. Let's do it together. What are you working on? And I want to be there to support you in being divinely aligned so that you can experience that state of flow and that greatest sense of freedom that gets you in the vibration and frequency of love. I'm telling you, it's crazy. I even have animals at the barn that talk to me because my vibration is high. So I'm learning this vibration stuff is real. The sound piece is real. And that's what I wish for you. So open up Messenger, send me, what are you working on? Because I want to be praying for you. And here's why prayer is so important. Robert, we're in the middle of like really divine things happening. So this must be the message for you, my friend. You're here in perfect timing. So this is why prayer is so important. I used to think, how could prayer work, right? Is it manifesting? Is it directing your mind and the biology of belief kind of thing? How does it work? And luckily, I'd had a pastor teach me the architecture of a prayer. That's going to be in the Awakening program as well. There's a reason prayer is structured a certain way in the Bible, and it's so that we can change and shift our focus in what we ask for. Because when we orient in the grandness of God, we ask for bigger things. When I was in my cancer journey, I was like thankful for Gigi's barber, who was a woman of faith that was a lot stronger than me. Lev Vygotsky teaches us we need to be in our zone of proximal development for learning. Someone who's just above you will help you grow in magnificent ways. And she helped my faith grow in very magnificent ways. And she would command cancer out of my body. She would command divine miracles over me. And I started to get really strong in my prayer life. And I started being like, yeah, me too. What she said. It was amazing. And now I pray big prayers for people. So that's why I want you messaging me. Because I want to teach you how to pray. I'm going to send you a prayer based on your goals. And you're going to be like, what? That's what it's supposed to sound like? Because that's what happened for me. That was the beginning of my strengthening. And I know, again, we're here for great reason. So this is how I know prayer is real. And Robert, this one's for you because you came in just perfectly timed for it. So there was a gentleman who was a missionary in Africa. And he had a 2-day trip from the village where he was serving to get groceries and medicines from this town or village. And he would make that 2-day trip with a companion for protection. Well, one day, his companion was very, very sick and unable to join him. So he went into the village, he got all the medicines, he got all the goods, and on his way back, he had a stopover night and then made the second half of his trip home. The next month, when he was in the village, there were 2 gentlemen who had reached out to him, and he knew those gentlemen were not known for kindness and generosity, that they were considered to be bad people. And they had asked him who he came to town with the previous month. And he said, I was alone. My travel companion was very sick. And they said, that's not true. And he said, yeah, it is true. I was by myself. And they said, no, it's not. We followed you home to kill you and take those goods to go sell them. And when we got there, you had 21 people surrounding your bed. And he said, I promise you I was alone. And they said, I want to know your God. I want to know all about him. And he stood and he ministered the word of Jesus Christ to them. He stood and directed them to God. I believe that's one pathway. Life is a highway. I want to ride it all night long. That's one pathway, Jesus Christ. There's lots of pathways. That's why the Awakening program is in my heart and soul. Because if that pathway doesn't work for you, I'm an educator. There are many ways onto the highway. I know that for sure. A pastor might tell you there's one way, but I'm here to tell you there's many ways. Right? And I want to help you find your way because I know you might be stuck like I was with a lot of cognitive dysfunction about God. And it's because we weren't meant to cognate about it. We were meant to feel it. So going back to that story, he then ministers the word of Jesus Christ to them. They become believers. They accept the Lord as their Savior. Some people believe that when you accept God into your life, it gives your soul permission. It gives God permission to use your soul to do work. In the Awakening program, I'm going to share some crazy stories of how I know that's true, that my soul has left, done great work, and come back. And I'm like, weird. Talk about weird. I'm like, I got to be careful what I share because I don't want to sound too cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But even my mom, who's very British and very like prim and proper with her afternoon tea, did not think I was crazy, because these visions that I shared with her were actually events that had happened in her life, and I had no way of knowing. So it's not totally crazy. It just sounds crazy. And thank you, Jamie Kern-Lima, in your book Worthy, for saying you're not crazy, you're just first. So I'm just the first one of people that I know to be going through this, and that's why it feels crazy to me, but it's not. So he goes back now to the home church back in the United States. So he goes back on furlough, and he's in church that day, and he's sharing how amazing this story is, that he was turned these criminals into believers. And this woman asks him, do you remember what day that was? And she pulls out her prayer journal, and he tells her the date, and she looks at her journal and realizes she was woken up in the dark of night with an insatiable need to pray for this man. And as she prayed, oh my God, I'm getting that whole right leg chill right now. It feels so weird in Florida when you get the chills, because it's beautifully warm and 72 degrees, and then you get this chill. It's beautiful and amazing. So he goes back to his home church. She pulls out her prayer journal. She asks him what day it was. He tells her she had this insatiable need that day that matched in her journal. And it was so strong, she activated the church's prayer line. And in the prayer line, they decided it continued to be strong for each and every one of them, so they met at the church. And guess what? She asked in the congregation that day, she said, if you were here, would you please stand? Might have been raise your hand, I can't remember. Stand or raise your hand. Guess how many people, my friends? 21. That's why I pray. I know if that man was protected in his journey through prayer, if thought has cured tumors in rodents, that's prayer. That's why I'm going to pray for you. So open up Messenger right here, right now. I want to know what's on your mind. What are you working on? It might be my Akashic records say I'm here to heal. So it might not be a work thing, and that's okay too. I tend to work in the areas of courageous career change, parenting and growth, right? I'm best positioned to serve the person I once was, right? So I'm best positioned to help people who've been through divorce, who've been through unplanned pregnancy and financial struggle and career change as a way to make it happen. Developing leaders is my heart song. I absolutely love that, because leadership starts with self. That's what I do best, is help people know themselves. And we start by knowing your stories, because a lot of those narratives need rewritten. That's what I'm spending a lot of time doing right now, rewriting narratives with people, and it is so much fun. So I need to know a little bit of your narrative. Tell me a little bit about yourself in Messenger. Just start typing. Tell me your name, what you like to go by, if you have kids, where you live, what kinds of things are on your mind, what lights you up, right? If you raise your vibration as you're telling me these things, that raises my vibration too. And that's how we raise the collective consciousness and vibration of this beautiful earth that we get to inhabit. So let's increase its beauty, okay? Write to me and I'll write you back. I'm sending you loads of love. It was truly a divine honor to spend this time with you, to stand here for so long. I don't even know how long it's been, but it has been so much fun to me from the bottom of my heart. And I'm grateful that you're here, and I hope to get to know you more in the Awakening program and spend time together. And I just want to pray over us in this moment. Dear Heavenly Father, angels, guardians of this beautiful galaxy, and the galaxy is even farther than we can ever fathom understanding in our human mind. God, I thank you for bringing us together in divine alignment, for letting stories be the igniting fire that we need to know one another deeply and to grow in the evolution of ourselves, so that we may escape that 3D consciousness and evolve into states of 4D and 5D as we're designed to grow as adults. That we weren't designed to stop learning, God, that you keep tugging at and calling our curiosity, because we know there's more. Help us to stay curious and help us to stay connected, not only to you, but to one another, God. I just feel that there is some divine alignment among all of the people that are here in this moment, and I want us to stay connected, and I want us to continue to show that love and support of one another. So God, I just pray that you put that voice in our head and that you allow us to listen and take action. In your holy name, I pray divine blessings over this entire group, that miracles start happening now. We expect those grand expectations because we know your power. And so we want to see those in life. We want to see you be real. be real to us so that we might know in the depths of ourselves and the fibers of our being that there is a God beyond which we can understand, that is leading the way with angels and guardians, guiding us, protecting us, and helping us experience miracles as we navigate the right path forward. Thank you for delighting in the details of our lives and directing those steps. Thank you for transforming our minds so that we may escape that mediocre middle and live the life that we were designed to live. In your holy name, we pray these expectations, and we cannot wait to experience your blessings. Amen. With that, my friends, go out and shine your love and light into this beautiful world. Mwah.